Hi, this is Jason Newkirk coming from the Orlando Theater Network. So tell us a little bit about Bring It On, the musical.
Nothing like the films. However, the writers that created this, Jeff Whitty, who wrote the book, it's based on the films as far as the elements. Like the elements from all of the films are there. Predominantly the first one and the third film. But it's a whole new storyline, all new characters, all new music, written by Tom Kidd, Lin-Manuel Miranda, Amanda Green. Alex Lacamoire did the orchestrations with Tom Kidd also. It's the kind of music you'd hear on the radio. Like, seriously, I've had friends that aren't even fans of musical theater, and I played the original cast album a couple of years ago, and they're like, "Oh, what song is this? Well, I never heard this on the radio." And I'm like, "You'd be surprised. It's from a Broadway show." And they're like, "No way."
Listen up, this is how it's gonna go.
What's the story about?
The story is based around the character named Campbell Davis. Now, she starts out at this. We don't like to call it the rich school. We call it the more privileged school. I guess you want to call it
the snotty school,
or that. Yeah,
the snotty school, right?
Yeah, the bougie school. You could call it that, the bougie school. But yeah, she goes to the school named Truman High School, and she feels like she's been destined to be a cheerleader ever since she was a little kid, because she was inspired by the Truman cheerleaders from way back when she was in the stands. In the lyrics, she says, "I was in the stands rooting for our team." So, and from that opening number, she kind of gives her story as to how she got to where she is now. Now she's actually at Truman High School. She's on the cheerleading squad, and now she's, at the moment of hoping that she gets to be captain. She always wanted to get to that part in her life in high school, and this is her senior year, so it's like her big moment. And not to give the story away, but we'll say that things change. Things go terribly wrong in Campbell's life. And
Listen up, this is how it's gonna go.
so it's a lot of work. You gotta really push yourself. It takes a lot of energy, but at the end of the day, you feel super accomplished when you got it all done. When we started doing the cheering, we had I think it was 4 or 5 days, maybe a week or 2 weeks of a cheer camp. And it was very intensive. We had to be very focused. Our cheer coach is Stephanie, who plays Danielle in the show. She used to be a cheer coach years ago, and right now she judges competition. So when she got the opportunity of being able to be the cheer coach for this show, it brought back a lot of memories. So she was really excited to do this. She really guided us, through the process of from the terms, high V, low V, the cheer basics, and basing, and learning how to communicate with each other, because it really does take a lot of communication and trust with your partner, because if you have a bass here and another guy or girl basing at the same time, we have to know, okay, we got to lift on this count, 1, 2, 3, and down, because you have this other girl high in the air, and her life is in our hands, and so we want to make sure that she's safe, and that she doesn't injure herself. Competitive cheerleading, it is a sport. It involves physical movement. You're competing. So, but as far as the singing tied into that, it's definitely a lot of work. I'll just say that.
So have you guys had very many injuries? Then have you had any injuries at all?
Actually, no.
Well, that's great. What? No war stories?
I know.
Thanks a lot. We all wanted to hear that.
The impressive thing about this is that some of our cast members have cheer experience, but not many of us. But I always wanted to be a cheerleader ever since I saw the first Bring It On movie. I saw it at the movie theater. I think it was a couple of weeks or so after it. When I saw those stunts and everything, I was inspired. I was like Campbell at that time, That's how I can relate to those lyrics in the opening number.
Imagine the lights, imagine the people, imagine us in the middle of the crowd, imagine the...
So let's talk a little bit about that, because I know that a lot of people in town know you as the Bring It On person. We've seen a lot of Bring It On stuff from Chris Robinson. I'm going to ask the questions you want to know. So tell us about, how did you... So you saw it at the movie theater, and then it kind of grew from there.
Yeah.
And then you went on and you decided to do a fan, what was it, a fan...
The story behind that.
Tell us. Inquiring minds would like to know. Would like to know. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it was shortly right when the tour had started, and I had heard there was a video clip of the first national touring cast in 2011. I think it was October when they performed at Universal Studios in Los Angeles, not in Orlando. And they performed three numbers, and one of them was "It's All Happening," which is like one of the most popular numbers in the show, and written by Lin-Manuel Miranda, of course. And so when I heard that number, I had originally recalled hearing a piece of it in the promotional video when they first released the promo for the show from that video, and I was like, man, I would love to do like a choral performance of that song. You know, a couple of months later, I had started looking for people to do this project with me, and it was kind of hard. Because a couple of months later, I said, let me try this again. So I started contacting people, and people started responding, and they're like, oh, I'd love to do this. Yeah, so I was like, okay, I think I can still do this. I know. I think what helped is that I knew the material well enough to be able to accomplish it. You know, if you're going to recreate something or produce something that's been done before, it's always great to research your material. Even, you know, YouTube, watching little videos or anything just to get inspiration. Not to copy it, but it's to give you inspiration so you can successfully exceed the expectations of what the fans or people that haven't seen it before, to bring a true version of true interpretation of that. And that's what I wanted to do with this, which was going to be a choral performance. Then it ended up being a music video. Then it ended up being a short film. Unfortunately, the film did not happen because Universal issued a cease and desist, unfortunately, but like everybody was supporting.
What is that like to get a notice like that from Universal?
Well,
how do you feel like you've accomplished something, or like like
you know what?
It was big enough that a major studio, you know, place saw it and took note?
Well, see, here's the thing. Like, I had when I pretty much told a lot of people about that, we got a lot of support. Even an article was written about it, and that was shedding a lot of light on our hard work and success that we put into it. I really wish the film could have been released. Even, you know, the writers, they were, you know, they liked what we were doing. They had no problem with it. But apparently Universal and Universal's client had an issue with it. So I couldn't really do anything, and, you know, the show was already sold to MTI, and, you know, Universal still owns the Bring It On franchise. So we couldn't really do much about it, but I do feel like a lot of things were accomplished. Ended up being squashed altogether, but shortly after, I released a 2-hour documentary of the Broadway show of Bring It On, how it came together from 2010 all the way to 2012. So I was really impressed with this group because they catch on really quickly. Some of our performers are with the Orlando Power Chords, like some of our
Awesome.
Campbell. Her name is Alexa. I cannot pronounce her last name. Sorry, Alexa. And then our Skylar, Kayla Alvarez. She plays Skylar. She's in the Orlando Power Chords also. So yeah, we have a nice mix of talent here. And it's just great how we've come a long way for all these months that we've been rehearsing, and it's been quite a fulfilling experience.
Imagine the fame, imagine the fortune. It's all
One of the great things about this show is that we were able to get the costumes from the original Broadway show.
Wow. So how did that happen?
Woo, that was a process.
Tell me about that process. Because I have this funny feeling you might have had your hands in it. Did you have your hands in it?
Yes, that was me. When they were originally stored at the Alliance Theater in Atlanta, because that's where the show first started in 2010. But so I contacted them, and they said, "Oh, we sent it back to the production company." So I'm like, "Oh crap! I got to figure out where I'm going to get these from. I got to figure out where they're at." So I did all this research and contacted different people that I knew that were involved with the Broadway show through Facebook and such, and they were like, "Yeah, it's Troika Entertainment," and I was like, "Oh, okay," and I knew of that company, so I contacted them. and told them, we're doing the Orlando production of Bring It On a Musical, and our director wanted to rent the costumes for the show. And so they're like, okay, so, we had a lot of phone tag, but we eventually got the contract and all that stuff. One of my friends works in the wig department of Troika, so he helped also to get us going. And so the costumes arrived about a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, about a couple weeks ago. So I was so excited when they came in, and I went in there and just saw them all inventoried out, and I'm looking in the tags, and I see all these people's names that I know from the original show and the second national.
So they still have the names and stuff?
Yeah, the initials and names are still in there.
Did you try them all on?
Yeah, because not all of them. Not all of them.
I was just curious because I would have all of them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, our costume coordinator, she had us try on certain ones. So the one that I got, I actually knew who it was, David Rainick, and he was in the original production in 2010, the first national tour, the Broadway production, and he did the second national tour also. So he's been with all of them. So I was like, yeah, perfect fit. So I'm wearing all of his outfits. But yeah, when I put that costume on, I'm like, I get goosebumps because that little moment of wearing those costumes right there, it's just all I can say is, for those of you in Orlando who've never got to see the musical, I definitely encourage you to come see it.
So I know that you've talked to several people in the cast, like in the tour cast, the Broadway cast. Yeah. Did he know I actually have a very good friend who was in the Broadway show of it?
I adore her so much.
And also, she was also in the tour, and she is great, and we're actually going to talk to her right now.
Yeah.
Adrianna. Yeah. And so we're going to pull her up right now, and we're going to chat a little bit what it was like to be in the original Broadway cast and to work with all those great people, and just a little bit more about Bring It On. Coming up. Stay tuned.
Listen up, this is how it's gonna go. We're gonna gather up every good girl we know. We'll get vertical till we get vertigo. Let's show these hoes how to put on a show. We need the very best.
Okay, we are here with my buddy Adrianna. Hello, Adrianna.
Hi.
So I want to tell everybody how we met. I was workshopping a show of mine, and it was a musical, and I needed a star. I needed a lead girl, and I couldn't find anyone, so I was asking around, and everybody's like, "Do you know Adrianna?" And I was like, "No, I don't know this girl." So I called her up, I got her phone number, and I gave her a quick call, and we met at a Starbucks, and she came in, and Adrianna was at one time is not the diva she is now, so she was very soft-spoken. She still is this way. She was very soft-spoken, and I didn't want to scare her. So if you know me, you know that I can be a little big. So I had to tone it down a little bit for Adrianna. And we were just talking, and we hit it off so well that when we were done with our coffee, I said, "So do you want to come and do you want to do this musical?" And she said, "Yeah, but don't you want to hear me sing or anything?" And I just knew right off the bat, sometimes you just know talent. And I was just like, nope, I don't want, you're in. And so that's how Adrianna, we did a whole summer workshop of a musical. It was some good times. Wasn't it some good times? Yeah, you better say it was some good times. So Adrianna went on. So tell us a little bit about yourself. How you were in the tour first, right? Of Bring It On.
Yeah.
So how did that? Go ahead with that. So how did that happen?
Well, okay, so I guess I'll start from how I heard about it, which is kind of a funny story. I went to college in a music conservatory for musical theater, and one of our classes that we had to take was ballet. So during ballet class, my professor comes in, his name is Louis, and he always wore black, and he was Cuban, and he had this like flowing black hair and this black goatee. He looked like a Cuban version of a panther. And I love him. I love him to death. And he came in to class, and it was like, it was a dance studio, so it's like a long. And he came into class at the end of the room. I was at the other end at the bar, like getting ready to start class. And he comes in and he goes, "Parson." That's what he called everybody by the line. Like, be in it. And I went to my position and was ready to start class. And it's funny because like everything in me was like, you're gonna be in that. I think my insides knew before I really knew. I just was claiming it. So I think that was over a year before the audition that I went to and before the Atlanta workshop had actually been cast. And I was going through the audition websites, Actors Equity, just kind of looking for the auditions, and every time I would find one, it would either be like that day or past, so I was always missing them. And finally, one day I went on there and I saw their New York call, and it was like their last call. And I was like, I have to go, I don't care what's happening. I called my mom and I was like, I gotta go. Come on, we gotta do this. My mom being so sweet, she booked me a flight, she booked me a hotel room, and I went and auditioned. Didn't expect anything but to just leave myself there and just to be like, I did this.
Leave it all on the floor.
And I got a call back and I was like, oh my gosh, that's awesome. And it was like my first really big audition, really big callback. It was just great. And after that, I was supposed to have come back for like a cheer kind of call after that callback, so they could do some more stunt work with me and see like what I was capable of. But I remember I was in the Wiz at Theater at the Center, and someone called me after.
Who were you playing in the Wiz?
Look it up on YouTube. She's awesome.
Yes. Girl, the Wiz was spectacular.
She was rocking that fro. She was rocking that fro.
Yeah, look her up on YouTube. It's awesome. Okay, go ahead. Ease on down the road with me with this.
Little Tisha Campbell twin.
For that show, as a matter of fact, and I was downstairs. It was right after intermission, and I had like a 15-minute gap between the next time I was supposed to come on, and I got a phone call, a left message, and I checked my message, and they're like, hey, so we were going to have you come back out, but I talked to Andy. He said he doesn't need to see you again. We want to cast you in the swing, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, okay. All right.
Oh, my gosh.
Andy Blankenbuehler wanted you.
It was really awesome. It was really awesome.
So what is what is the real feeling that you have when someone calls you up and you get cast in like your first national anything, like your first national tour?
The real feeling
what is the real feeling?
I trained myself to never get too high because things always can happen. So I was really excited, but I was very reserved about it. Like I had told some people because I was really excited, and I was like, I think I was telling people so that nothing could happen, and so that they wouldn't call me back and be like, hey, just kidding, So I was excited, but I didn't really let it set in until I was in New York, going for fittings, rehearsal. Because then it's real. Then you get your paycheck and you're like, yes!
So then we went to rehearsal. So that you were in New York. You went to New York. Was it your first time to like live in the city and really experience New York like that? So what was that like? Because I know, like, Adrianna and I are both from Indianapolis. So, like, New York and Indianapolis are totally, it's a monster. And
you see it on TV. You only see it on TV.
Exactly. So what was that like coming from Indianapolis and, like, going to New York and having that experience?
People probably thought I was crazy because I was just so happy. Every day I was just so happy. Riding the trains, happy walking down the street. Like, it never got old for me. It's such the energy of the city. It's fast paced, but it keeps you going. Like, I would always be going. Working out, preparing something. Even after the show was over, it was like you kept up with the rhythm, with the motion of the city and the pace of the city. I loved it. I'm not like a sightsee, toursy kind of person, so I didn't even do all of that. It was just being in the city, like turning on a TV show, being in the city and seeing the city projected back at you from the TV and just being like, oh, I just ate there.
That's
you know
awesome.
what I mean? Like I live here.
I understand.
And walking down 42nd Street, like when we were doing the Broadway run, knowing like, oh, I work here.
Okay, so there you go. For we're gonna go to rehearsal. So I bet you were so nervous. So nervous.
Oh my God.
I bet you were so freaking out nervous.
Here's the thing, you don't understand. I trained so hard to get that job. Like when I told you that my professor told me about it, all of my focus was on getting that job. So I danced, I trained with that job in mind. I studied Andy Blankenbuehler's choreography on YouTube because it was the only available resource I had. So every single piece of choreo he had on YouTube, I would dissect it. I would try to replicate it in my little apartment. My 850 square.
I do that too.
In Chicago, I was working on triples and quadruples, and I was just doing all of this stuff. I took hip hop. I was not good at hip hop. I took hip hop so that I could book that job. And that is a scary thing to do, go into class and do things that you're not good at.
Yeah.
So going into rehearsals, even knowing that they, when they cast you, it's like you're good enough. You have exceeded the expectation. You're good. You got the job. I was still I still have to show them that they made the right decision. Mm-hmm. So I was working really hard. I was scared that I was going to forget choreo. I don't know. I was just very nervous. And I didn't know any of the people. You're in New York now. It's not like you're in Chicago with your Chicago theater family.
Sure, because it is a different experience, Chicago and New York, It is two different cities. It is two different, it's different. It is very different.
And then add to that, I used to be a cheerleader. Before I went into musical theater, I was a cheerleader. I was going to go to college for cheerleading.
What? You can go to college for cheerleading? That's another show. I'm going to have you back. We're going to talk about going to college for cheerleading, but go ahead, sorry.
That's what I did. I was good at it. I was like, I'm going to do this and be awesome for the rest of my life. So bringing those two worlds of cheerleading and this new passion that I had for musical, it was it was almost like a slight identity crisis. But it was exciting. It was exciting to be yes, I get to do this thing that I haven't done in a while, and I get to combine it with this thing that I love. Man, Bring It On was probably the perfect show that I could have gotten cast in. For my abilities.
So you went into that rehearsal room, you looked around. Do you remember the first person you met?
Oh my gosh, who did I was the first person? I met Shanika actually
Shanika got it?
I met her at auditions.
Uh-huh.
And I remembered her because I was like, oh my gosh, her style of dancing, I like that. And so I had met her then. Who did I meet? I was so, you know me, Jason. When I get into rehearsrsal, I'm in my space.
Oh my gosh, you are. Adrianna is so. we would be directing and doing whole big group numbers and everything, and sure enough, there's little Adrianna with a script, while most people are just talking and so dedicated and just looking over those lines, so dedicated all the time. It was just amazing to me to see Adrianna's focus during that process. It was a huge show, and there were people dancing on bars and everything, and it was just you remember that. You remember that. Yeah, you remember that. And there she was sitting. I just had this moment in my mind of just doing this big number with everybody, and it was so loud and it was so crazy, and there were all these kids at the time who just wanted to to do musical theater, and I was like looking around, and I just remember one person, and it wasn't the person who was like jumping around or doing flips or anything like that in our show, but it was Adrianna who always drew my focus, just her commitment and just her studying over those words, and just it was amazing to me. It was, and
Thanks,
she always
Jason.
is. Oh, seriously, I just love you. Okay, so let's go back real fast to the audition. So at the audition, what did you have to do with the audition?
Let's see, the first day, oh my gosh. My memories are so like, I'm going to try to do this accurately. So you had to, I think I sang. You had to sing, and if you got past singing, then they took you to dance.
Do you remember what you sang?
Yeah, I sang Chasing Pavements.
Ooh.
And I just remember I chose that song because at that point, me flying there, the lyric, should I give up or should I just keep chasing pavements, even if it leads? To me, it was like, I came here to do this and to book this job. And, I don't think I'm going to give up. But should I? If I can't book this job that is so completely right for me, then that's the emotion that came out in my audition. And I think that's what got me through to the next part, which was the dance part. So then we learned and we had to take in, it was like 16 or 32 of a pop song, up-tempo, and ballad, I think. And then the dance, I think I'm getting my days mixed up.
It's okay.
But there was a dance portion, and they taught you some combination. I forget what it was. The whole thing, after like that singing part, the whole thing is like a blur. And I remember snippets of things. So after that first day, and they tell you if they want you to come back the next day or not before you leave. So they they're like, these people stay, go get a packet, we'll see you tomorrow. And then you have to sing more. They give you sides to read. They give you little sides of songs to sing. And I remember being like, I don't know how this is going to come out because, I'm staying there in a hotel. I can't sing at full voice. Last time I stuck up here was like, I don't know. But then the callback day, I do remember going in and singing with Alex Lack. I call him Lack.
We're not such good friends now.
He was the one playing the piano. And I remember being so comfortable with him in that space and environment because he gave me direction. And I know that it's not always what happens, but I really like when I go into an audition or a callback and they aren't just like, go. Because then I'm like,
what?
Okay,
Yeah.
I can do a million different things.
Yeah, what do you want to see? Yeah.
Yeah, like what? Not necessarily what exactly do you want me to do, but just like where is the direction that you want
this
me
is
to go?
going direct.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
And I loved that, and he let me just do, and that was great. And I think there were a few other people in there, but I remember Alex specifically, just because he was the one playing the piano, and if I asked questions, he answered them. He wasn't mean, It was great. I remember feeling really good. I just was so happy. I was so happy. I didn't even think I would get it. Honestly, I didn't. I was like,
That's awesome. Okay, so going back to New York, you got in the show. Okay, so what was the rehearsal process like? Because I know, didn't you guys have a lot of people? You had singers, dancers, actors, and then to throw into the mix, didn't you guys have cheerleaders too?
Cheerleaders.
Who what was what was that? Did they know? Like, did they have musical theater experience, or were they really just coming in and we are cheerleaders and we're here to do this and we're going to move our mouth and that we're going to act like we're singing and?
We had a few people who did everything: sang, dance, act, tumble, cheer, stunt. Just like, and you would, amazing people. Like, Dennis Richardson was one of them. He was amazing. Like, he did everything. you didn't have to tell him how to do anything. He knew how to do it, you know? For those who were still learning, it was a learning experience for everybody, for the creatives, for the people coming in who didn't necessarily know like how to do it.
Right.
And for me, watching all of this and trying to fit, you know. And this is a show where I could probably count on my hands and toes the times that we had a full cast on stage.
Well, I bet. Were there a lot of injuries? A lot of injuries?
Yeah. Well, you have to think about it this way. Cheerleaders are used to having, they have our 3-5 hour long practices sometimes, 5 sometimes. But it's not constant. You know, they work on the cheer routine, they work on stunting, they work on tumbling, they work on, it's piecemeal. Their routines are generally 2.5 minutes long. This is a 2.5 hour show where we're asking people to tumble, stunt, sing, dance. Dancers already know it is stress on the body, just dancing. So adding all the rest of that, it was a tall order to ask from people. I think the only way that we could have ever had a full cast all the time and very rarely swings or understudies on is if we were all professional athletes. That's the only way. You had to train like a professional athlete not to get hurt, and you had to...
Crazy.
That's a lot.
So then after your rehearsals, you did the road show. you did the tour, right?
Yeah.
How many cities was the tour?
Oh my gosh, you're asking me.
Do you remember? If you don't remember, just say, I can't know, Chad, I don't remember. I know.
No, I mean, I can try to... we went to LA, San Fran, Denver.
What was it like to tour?
Oh, I loved it. I loved going to different cities, seeing different people. I had only been to a handful of different states, and mainly in the same region for my entire life. I'd never been to the West Coast. So, I remember on the plane ride over, I cried because we crossed over, a section of the Grand Canyon. And I just was like, it's so beautiful. And seeing different people from different regions, seeing what, the United States is like outside of your hometown, really cool. Seeing how different audiences react to the show in different places was really cool. I loved traveling.
So I know that a lot of the times people will go and they will see the tours and they always wonder what it's really like to be on the road. So did you guys have, and I know that it's usually a little bit different for each tour, but did you guys have a bus or did you guys have your own cars? How did that happen? It wasn't, okay.
You had the option of driving to each city if you wanted to. That was on you. You had to get to where you needed to be when you needed to be there. Okay, but they provided, this is an equity tour, you know, so they provided the flight arrangements, if that's what you were doing. If you wanted to go home between cities, because sometimes we would have 2 or 3 days between cities where we close in this city, we have a few days, and then we open in the next city. So sometimes people would go fly home for a couple days and then fly into the next city. Those arrangements were on you. But they handled our flight. We drove a bus. We rode a bus to San Fran from LA because it was, it's only, 3 hours or so? Was it 6? I don't know. I can't remember. But I think that was the only city where we were in a bus. Everywhere else we flew.
So, and you guys, when you get to the hotel, are you all on the same level? Do you share rooms?
Sometimes. Oh my gosh. Again, me, I'm a hermit. I'm solo. I had a lot of work to do on that show, so I always liked to be in my space. So I always liked to be not next to everybody.
This is the girl. I could never get her out to a cast party or anything because she would always say, and God bless her, she would always be like, I have your show tomorrow. And that, as a director, that is the best thing that you could ever hear from one of your leads is, I would love to go out with you, but I have a show tomorrow. It truly is. Yeah. So road life, it's crazy, yes? It's crazy.
It is. It's crazy, man. You get over flying real fast.
You do.
Because luggage, and we had these big like trunks that would go on the trucks. The trucks are always on the road. They have the set in them. Our trunks, they were huge, and we could fill up the trunk however much we want. Now you take your luggage, you only get up to 50 pounds, and if you go over, you have to pay $100, $150, whatever it is. So like, I remember changing from city to city and having to fly. We were always like, okay, don't go shopping. Put this stuff in your trunk. What am I going to get rid of? When we left San Francisco, I left probably like 2 big shopping bags of clothes in the room.
Yeah, some people had to throw stuff away.
I can't take these. So somebody was real happy.
It was probably Chris Robinson. He was following you. You know, they got all the Broadway the costumes from the original Broadway show. Did you know that?
I assumed because I saw your post as having Dexter's pants.
Oh, Dexter.
Somebody wearing your outfit down here in Florida.
I gotta find out who's wearing it.
So if you have Adrianna Parsons' outfit, this is her. Okay, so we're on the road. It's crazy. Do you remember your first house that you played? Do you remember that?
Yeah, the Amundsen in LA.
Oh.
LA was my favorite city. The Amundsen Theater. I had never been to LA. It was, again, one of those cities that I only had ever seen on TV. I loved it. I think the weather had a lot to do with it. But, like, just waking up every day and it's, like, 75. It's November. It's sunny. There's mountains. Me and a few people would go hiking early mornings.
Well, here in Florida, we have that too. And if you ever come down here to visit me, we'll go to Mount Dora and I'll let you climb it. And I'm just everybody's gonna be laughing about this. Who knows Mount Dora? But I'm gonna take video of you one day to come down here and climb Mount Dora. Yes, but go ahead. Keep on. We'll talk later. Okay, so go ahead. So you're loving LA, and it's your first show, and you step on that stage, and what is it like?
I was on, and I remember it was amazing. It's like, I don't know if you've ever heard people talk about like those rare, amazing theater experiences when you're a performer and everything just goes the way it's supposed to go. That's how it was for me.
You toured, and then after you toured, was there some downtime before the Broadway show was announced?
There was. I think we had like 6 weeks.
So did you guys know after the tour going into it that it was going to make the transfer over to Broadway?
Yes, there's a video clip when they find out.
Finishing with the tour.
Do what?
They told us when we were in Toronto, which was our last city of the tour. They told us.
Okay. Was there talk? Was there always a lot of talk on the tour of this might make the transfer over?
Yeah, you get to people who are veterans, and they just know. The people who are veterans just know whether or not a show is going to go.
Did they know?
It had been the talk.
It had been. Did they know? Did you feel like they knew that it was going to go over?
Yeah, I was like, I don't know, y'all.
Of course you were.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did they tell you guys? Did they pull you in a room? Chris says that there's some YouTube video, I guess.
When Andy tells you guys.
Yeah, we were sitting on the stage in Toronto at I forget what the theater's called in Toronto. But we were sitting, they called us in, and word spreads fast in our cast, any cast.
Yeah.
Something happens, somebody's going to know. You have the chatterbox, and the chatterbox lets everyone else know. So we were all kind of like, this is this meeting, isn't it?
Andy was so serious. I'm like, oh, man.
And do you remember what it was like in that room when they said, we're making the transfer to Broadway?
People were really excited, but we were tired. Like, the tour, that show was a monster in itself. Despite the physical aspect, you had all the technical aspect. Even though the stage was pretty bare, it was a pretty minimalist setting. Those screens, oh my god!
4 LED screens.
Oh, so your set then was 4 LED screens?
Yeah.
Yeah,
basically.
I mean, we had lockers and things like that. Like, we had lockers to move and tables and benches to move sometimes and cheer props to move. But those screens are a technical monster. So, you know, a lot to work around. And so with the tour coming from a workshop, there's still a lot of changes. And there were changes. We would be in...
So let's
before a show.
Let's talk about that really fast. So so now it's the transfer period. So you had 6 weeks, right, before the transfer over to Broadway. 6 weeks rehearsal before the preview.
Oh my gosh.
No.
No.
6 weeks before you opened on Broadway.
No. So we closed in Toronto. We have 6 weeks of go recuperate.
Oh, you had a break.
At the end of those 6 weeks, we'll start back in rehearsals, and we will build this Broadway show.
And that was the tour. Now, you go home, 6 weeks. Did you go back to New York during those 6 weeks?
Yeah.
Or did you go back home to see the parents? And not see me?
I got played.
I was doing other things at that time. I was traveling myself and other things. But we'll talk about that later. Okay, so go ahead.
The same thing.
Thanks a lot for never picking up the phone and never giving me a call. No, okay, so 6 weeks. What were you doing during those 6 weeks? And what was your mind thinking? Like, oh my gosh, I have a Broadway show, right?
I think I took a week to just do nothing. And just not think about it. Nothing. And then I focused on training my body. Because you get tired. You get really tired, and maybe people probably have different opinions than me who worked on the show. So it was a lot. It was a lot of work. So I had to kind of shed of that and get ready for the next leg.
What was the theater that Bring It On played at?
The St. James.
St. James.
On 44th, I think. 44th in Broadway.
So what was it like the first time you actually went to that theater?
Oh my gosh, I think I cried.
And you walked out on that stage, because I'm sure you went center stage, because that's where you go when you're an actor and you finally make it to Broadway, and you just looked at it.
No, I cried. I cried because it's like, you don't know how long it's going to last. We were only on for a 6-week trial, so it was like, I was like, I can't believe I made it here. And not even made it, but I can't believe I'm here. I just want to stay. So, a lot of emotions. A lot of emotions.
So So did many things change when you transferred over to Broadway during those rehearsals? It did. So what was that process like? The changing.
The same as any changes.
So there were new songs.
Changes.
So what were some of the changes?
Lyrics.
New lyrics.
Of new songs. Brooke, take out your old page 90 through 95 and put this in. And you just have to be like, all right.
I love Let's Take This Mess to Nationals. I wish they kept it. Oh, such a good song.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there that I was like, oh.
I know.
So now we're on Broadway. So we had the rehearsals. What was opening night like? Do you even remember it, or was it such a...
You read my face, right?
Yeah.
everything for me, and my parents are kind of mad at me, and my family's kind of mad at me for not enjoying more and being more in the moment, being more present.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, while I was in the process, because after tech, I can remember tech, and then everything else seems like the same day. You know, that it was just so much. It was a lot. I loved it, but it was just a lot. And then I for the tour, while we were in rehearsals for the tour before we even left to go to LA, they put me on as assistant dance captain, and I accepted because I didn't know what that entailed. And I was honored. I really was. I was like, oh my gosh, you think I'm good enough to like be in charge of making sure everybody's doing the same choreo? And it was a lot of work. So I was always working. I never went anywhere. Oh, it was a lot of work,
So rewarding.
So, okay.
It was.
So
it was an experience.
You had the opening night.
Uh-huh.
And so what happens after you do an opening night on Broadway? Like, so you get done with the show, and what happens then? Does everybody just go backstage? Is there a party? What happens?
Yeah, there is. Oh, I vaguely remember now. There's an opening night party. You get a few tickets to invite, friends or family. And we went to this really cool, like, this is how bad I should have experienced more. I can barely remember what the space looked like, but if I were to go there now and be invited to a party, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I've made it. It was such a cool space. There was like a dance floor area. There was like 2 bars or something. There was a rooftop lounge terrace area that I didn't even go experience, and that's like my favorite thing. And then there's like a section where everybody who's involved with the show goes, and it's like a red carpet kind of thing, and you go and you take pictures for Playbill.com, Broadway World, anybody who's there to post from the opening night from this Broadway show onto their website.
And so, do you wait for the reviews?
Me?
Yeah. Did the cast wait for the reviews?
Well, reading reviews is very person to person.
Yep.
But I didn't read any reviews, really. I think I read a few to see how people were receiving us. But I don't remember reading any bad ones.
Mm-hmm.
But some people do. Some people are like, did you read that review? And I'm like, I was trying.
Yep. But I think you and I have always had the same concept when we do shows, and the same concept basically as an actor. We don't do it for like the reviews. We do it for the actual, you and I both do it for actual people. Like, we do it for our parents and our parents' friends. We want those people. We could care less if the next actor who came saw it and didn't like it. Like, we don't, because they will criticize you sometime to no avail. And so we don't do it for those reasons. We do it because there's an audience, and we grew up and we love it, and we want to make the people who actually paid happy, and
that's why we do this.
And that's why we do this.
Agree. And that's one of the things. I mean, when you go back to talking about the immersion of 2 different cultures of entertainment, meaning like the cheer world and the theater world, that's where it kind of differs. Cheer is sport. It is competitive. So there is a different mentality there when it comes to things regarding performance in theater. The families of theater that I grew up in, it has always been just that family. And it's been about that experience that you talk about. It's been about that person sitting in the audience saying, I want to do that. And that's all it's been about. Taking people and providing them with an experience and making sure that the people who are on the stage and behind the scenes are all on the same page of that same goal of making the show amazing for the experience,
Yes.
not for the accolades.
Yes. Yep.
And I think that, going back to rehearsals, that was my favorite part about rehearsals. I've always wanted to be a part of an original production, and to go through that process and to be there with the creatives, to see them working, to see line changes happening in the midst of a rehearsal from the people who wrote them. It's just, oh my gosh, the creativity that was infused into me that I didn't realize until after that production closed and after I went on to do, what I'm doing now, huge. Those people had a huge impact on me. I don't think they know it, but they did.
Did the show only last for 6 weeks then? Did it only play out its limited run, or did you guys get picked up for a longer
Was
run?
it 6 weeks? Am I lying?
You
about
guys were
how long it was?
supposed to close in January.
Let's ask Chris
It was-
Robinson. Hey, hell no. How many performances, Chris?
I know they.
It was a 6-month run.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a 6-month run.
We
Okay.
opened in July, and we closed in December.
Yeah. They
You got
extended
him!
it. They extended it. It was going to be January, and then they pushed it back to December. I was like, oh, I was going to go see
Yeah.
it, but.
So, what is that like? Now, we've talked about the happy times, but what is it like when the show was closing? Did they tell you, hey guys, this is it, it's not going to be extended anymore?
Yep, there was another meeting.
And it was basically flat out, this is how it is. And
Yeah,
so then yeah.
That, y'all know as well as I know, if you're from theater, you understand that that's a possibility. That happened with me on another show in Chicago, Aida. And that show was running well. The audience was receiving it well. We were selling well, but we had to close early. I don't know if the cost of production was too high. I don't know what it was, but it happens. And that's the thing that I meant by those feelings when I got the call that, your contracts are coming, blah, blah, blah. That's why it's not like, yes, I've made it, I'm going to be on Broadway for 5 years. Because you don't know. You never know. The people who have been there, who are there and have been there, are lucky and blessed, as well as having all of the things in place that they needed to have their shows there and to have their careers there. I'm talking about dancers and productions and creative teams. So you just kind of, it is what it is. You got to figure it out after that. Got to figure out what you want to do.
Wow. So then it closed. Do you remember closing curtain? Of course.
I
There's
cried.
a video of that
Closing day.
too. Of the
You
final
cried.
house.
Everybody cried.
Yeah.
And then
I think I cried more than people thought I would cry. Yeah. It was like bittersweet because, again, it was a lot of work. It was very stressful. So have you ever been in a show so long that you're just like, let's just be over. And then it's over and then you're like, I miss it. And that's what, it was that kind of thing where it was like, I don't really want this to be over, but, I need to move on to other things. We need to do other things. And then you have to think about like, am I going to get into another show? Is this my last time on Broadway? Which it's not. I just want everyone to know it's not. It's not.
I just love you so much. It's ridiculous how much I just love you. Okay, so that closed. And so what are you doing now, Adrianna?
Well, weirdly.
I know what you're doing now. Tell everybody what you're doing now.
Now, after the show closed, I kind of shifted my perspective a little bit. I had a lot more to say than I had ever had in my life, and I think that manifested itself into me writing songs. So I started writing and started as just a writer. I wanted to just write for other people, license my stuff, and live and get back onto Broadway and go do my things. And someone recently nudged me into being in the artist seat. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm working on an album. That process is almost done, and should be releasing some songs here in the next few months.
Always, you're just an amazing person. You really are. And Chris, do you have any questions or anything about Bring It On? Do you have anything?
Oh, here's one thing. What was it like to work with Antoine Bethea?
I'll tell you what. There are some people in that cast that I just loved. I didn't even have to talk to them. I just loved being around when they were doing things because they were hilarious. Antoine is one of those people that just, I think when things got really hard, Antoine was one of the people that kept people's spirits up just because his energy was so good and he was hilarious. I don't even know if he meant to be hilarious, but he was.
Yeah.
Antoine is really funny. I haven't actually seen him since we closed.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this. Reality TV wanted to make some more money.
Oh?
They should go and film what happens backstage at a show.
Yeah.
Not a long-running show.
Yeah.
Not big. Yeah.
But the shorter ones, the new ones, is where the drama
The ones that aren't
Right.
oiled yet.
It's like that. Man, theater, for me, was my first love, I think, in performance. And it came with the territory. It's just like, whenever you agree to do a show and sign a contract with anyone, you're signing away from start date to end date, no matter what time. Sunday, Saturday, doesn't matter. If we don't have shows on Monday, you might be signing away a Monday to something. And I'm always committed. I was always committed to those moments. It just came with the territory. So I don't remember because I probably was just like, okay.
Wrap this up now. And Adrianna, I want to thank you so much for just coming in and talking today and just sharing some memories with us. And, you've always been so dedicated, and your energy has been, you're one of the performers that I know who always just puts it out there no matter what mood they're in, no matter what's going out. And it's definitely a lesson that so many people, I still think, need to learn. And I think you're just perfect. You really are. I just love you so much. And again, thanks so much for coming and talking with us today. And do you have any final words for people who want to go out and do it and they're gonna go to Broadway?
Oh, love what you do.
And the
You
world
have
will
to love
adore
it,
you.
and you have to be all in, and you can't be looking around for other people to tell you what's the
Approval.
right way or the wrong way to do it. You just have to do it.
Yep.
Look to the people who are doing it the best. Don't look to anybody else. And then you do. You listen, and you do. And that's how you do it. Can I tell everyone where to find me on Instagram?
Absolutely, yes.
Because I
Go
didn't
ahead.
know too.
So at
Yeah.
Adrianna Trachell, that's ADRIANNATRACHELL. That's my Instagram. Then you can find me on Facebook and the Facebook fan page for Adrianna Trachell.
Perfect.
And you can follow and see, where my new musical journey is going.
Perfect. And Adrianna, thank you so much for coming and bringing some memories again and talking about Bring It On. And thank you so much. And I love you. And we'll see you very soon, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Alright, my subjects, your attention please. Listen up, this is how it's gonna go. We're gonna gather up every good girl we know. We'll get vertical till we get vertigo, and show these hoes how to put on a show.
We need the very best boys we can find.
They gotta be strong and they gotta be fine. Do what you gotta do, wine and dine, but keep this in mind. Imagine the lights, imagine the people, imagine us in the middle of the crowd. Imagine the fame, imagine the fortune.
all have.